Welcome everyone to the Dallas Area Chamber of Commerce Community Affairs. This is Thursday, September 18th. I can't believe this month is going by so quickly. My name is Dan Spots on behalf of the Chamber, and we're going to start with introductions and brief updates from folks around the table, and then we will proceed to our guest of honor this morning, President Kenneth Lawson with Columbia Gorge Community College. So I'll start around my screen, and let's start with Misa Olson.
Good morning. This is Misa Olson, and I'm on the business team for vocational rehabilitation. One of the projects I'm currently working on is a youth career readiness expo in a variety of my regions. And so it'll be coming into your region, looks like either February or March. So I'll be looking for, people to do mock interviews for students as well as businesses to be on a panel in selected sectors. So there'll be more information on that later on, and that's who I am. Thank you so much. And I'm driving, so I'm going to be off camera.
All right. Thank you, Misa. Scott McKay.
Good morning, everyone. Scott McKay. I am currently a volunteer for Circles of Care. We're looking for someone to replace me in that position as a community liaison. And hopefully we have someone in mind, but we haven't finalized that yet. But so I think that's all I'm going to say. I have to say today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Kristen Dillon. Kristen, are you able to hear us?
There we go. Struggling for the
There we
mute
go.
button. Hi, it's Kristen Dillon. I'm here. I'm interested in hearing about what's going on at the community college. So I'm listening in for that reason.
Right. Welcome, Kristen. Roger Nichols.
Thank you. I'm the old RETED reporter from way back when and still working for a couple of units, both radio and newspaper, and writing for the Ruralite. I just want to mention something that happened yesterday at the Wasco County Commission, and that is commissioners voted to sign a letter joining other counties along with 34 of the 36 sheriffs of the 36 counties and asking the courts to decide, because Marion County recently got 5 subpoenas from ICE, and the sheriff is caught in the middle between the sanctuary law of the state of Oregon and some of the recent presidential proclamations and issuances. And they're asking the courts to not take a side, but give us guidance. Where do we go? Which patch of laws do we follow? What takes precedent? So I think that's very interesting going on. That was yesterday. And I'll have a plug for the fall fling at the Discovery Center on October 4th, where we have an auction and where I have put up a treasure chest that can make you an instant millionaire. I'll tell you about that later. He teased.
Thank you, Roger. Roger also serving interim on the Columbia Gorge Commission. Thank you for doing so. Sounded like a good segue on that first item to Commissioner Phil Brady.
Thank you. That was part of our meeting yesterday. Another part was Leslie Naramore presenting, but she's here. I'll let her speak to that. And the last thing that happened is we appointed Mike Ballinger to be on the Columbia Gorge Scenic Highway Advisory Committee, and which is, I understand, trying to fill in that last step west of Hood River.
I understand. I'll look for it during this meeting, but I believe that the advisory committee has a virtual meeting this afternoon.
Correct. That's
Great.
true.
I'll look for that link. Thank you, Phil. Leslie Naramore.
Morning, everyone. I'm Leslie Naramore. I'm the Executive Director of Mid-Columbia Community Action Council. And yes, Commissioner Brady was referencing, I've been touring right now, visiting every county and city within our service area, which is Hood River, Wasco, and Sherman counties. And I will be speaking here next week. And I know a couple of you have seen that presentation now, but I do try to make it a little bit different every time. So hopefully it won't be too boring for you. And one update that I did want to share is for Rowena fire affected residents. We're up to 21 households who have been rehoused now, and we have 10 more households households that we are working with. So if any of you are landlords in this room and might be interested in working with us, please do reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Leslie, would you put your contact information, and the same goes for everyone here, please, in the chat box, so we have that on the recording. Mr. Jacob Anderson?
Good morning, Jacob Anderson, Economic Development Officer for the City of the Dalles. This last week, I've been working on the airport quite a bit, and we have our T-hanger project coming up. It's out for bid right now, and that's for 20 T-hangers on the airport, and we get those bids back at the end of the month, so stay tuned.
Very good. Thank you, Jake. Dave Peters?
Good morning, everybody. Dave Peters, Columbia Cascade Housing, Mid-Columbia Housing Authority. No big changes. Rand Road, Mariposa Village has foundations on, I think some of the vertical structures are going up in Hood River. We did get most of the funding required for a project in Chenoweth area where DeHart's Market is for 76 apartments in the Dalles. And on my side of stuff, we're applying for money for down payment in Washington, our two counties. That'll be going in, I guess, next week. And same, we'll be applying for funding for developing 14 homes. It'll be home ownership in Carson, Washington through a community land trust. And then we also are working for 4 homes in the Dalles, side by side kind of duplexes on 10th Street. So things are moving forward here. Thanks.
A lot of activity. Thank you, Dave. Good to know. And Tom Pemberthy?
Good morning, everyone. Tom Pemberthy. I'm the Marketing Director and Public Information Officer for Columbia Gorge Community College. And there might be somebody else here that wants to talk about the college, so I'll just let them go.
Tom, I believe you're right. And
Yeah.
talk about a nice segue there. I believe that I've caught everyone on this call. If I haven't, please let me know. Raise your hand. I don't think so. So we're going to proceed to Dr. Kenneth Lawson, Columbia Gorge Community College President. Kenny, take it away.
Thanks, Dan. Good to see everybody this morning. I do have some slides, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that up.
I'm making you co-host right now.
Okay. I assume
like there we go.
All right. Well, like I said, good morning, everybody. It's great to see everybody up early in the morning and ready to hear about the college. We just started our year yesterday. That's with just faculty and staff back on campus. And then students will start this coming Monday. So I just wanted to share a couple of highlights as well as kind of the general direction of the college. So first, if you'll indulge me just a little bit of kind of how I got into community colleges and why I think they're so vital to our communities, particularly in rural areas. I had never thought that I was going to be in community college. My dad had a master's degree. It was always an expectation in our household that I was going to go to university, and there was just so much support around that goal. And as I was kind of finishing up, I had kind of expected that I would be probably at a liberal arts college. I love doing research and writing, but I had a passion for teaching. But that was my career trajectory was going to be, teaching at a liberal arts college. And I love political science, by the way, those of you who don't know my background. Still love my discipline and miss the classroom a lot. So at any rate, as I was finishing up my dissertation, I had run into a neighbor of mine who happened to be a faculty member over at Olympic College. So kind of outside of the Seattle area, ferry ride over to Bremerton. And she offered to let me teach adult basic education. And so for those of you that don't know, our adult basic education programs will make sure that students that haven't completed either their GED or their high school diplomas, like we make sure that those students have an opportunity to still complete and find a pathway to a good living wage job. And anyway, I said, yes, by all means, love to teach adult basic education, even though it wasn't in my field. And when I went, and I did it for 2 quarters, and those students just blew me away. They were just so energetic, invested. And I knew like it was so different from a university classroom where most of those students were pretty well set up to succeed. They had the resources, they had the family support, everything. But there was something special about being in that adult basic education program where you knew you were really making kind of that really foundational difference in the trajectory of people's lives. And that to me kind of encapsulates what community colleges do. We provide opportunity for folks that really, it's going to be a make or break, potentially anyway, a make or break in their lives. So that really got me excited about the possibility of working at a community college. And as it turns out, I got a faculty job at Shoreline Community College in North Seattle and kind of started my career there. At any rate, you can see some of that is reflected in our mission statement at CGCC. So we just updated this a few years ago, first year when I arrived. So I'm now, hard to believe, but starting my 3rd year at the college. And our mission statement has 3 parts to it. We really prioritize equitable access, so making sure that educational programs are available to our community, and that we empower all students through learning. And part of that means that we're also invested in making sure that the students that do come to us, they're learning, but they're also completing. And that's a big part of how we measure our mission, is making sure that students actually are not just spending their money for a few credits, but they're getting a degree that's going to lead somewhere, and they're going to be successful. I'll talk a little bit about some of the things the college is doing to help make sure that our success rates are going up. And then finally, we also have a priority in our mission related to community. And so we really try and make sure that our programs are helping to promote economic development, inclusive prosperity, and a thriving community. And by the way, we definitely use a little education lingo. Inclusive prosperity is the notion that everyone should benefit from economic growth, particularly students that come to the college, many of them first-generation students, low socioeconomic status sometimes. And we want to make sure that they get into good living wage jobs. All right, and then, we also, just as a community college, we want to underscore the idea that we are a part of the community, and our community around us, I think we all recognize is incredibly polarized, and there's just a lot of division in the world. And what we're trying to do is make sure, at least at the college, we are creating a community that everyone feels like they can belong and feels like it's I don't like to use the word safe space, because I do want people to be challenged. So we'll call it a brave space, but a place where you can go and have real conversation and share your thoughts and share your skills, and do that in a place where we're learning and growing with each other. So that's in general our mission statement and kind of our broad kind of direction. And then, and sorry, I've got like the sun coming in here, so I've got a weird line on me, but I wanted to talk a little bit just about our students. So I'm going to give you the student profile for our students that just are entering this fall. I will say before I describe all that our enrollment has been pretty steady. When I first got here, we had like a 10 or 11% enrollment growth, and we surpassed we made up for all the enrollment decline that had happened during COVID. And last year, our enrollment was fairly steady. This year, so far, it's too early to tell, but we're up about 20% from where we were this time last year. So I don't know that will hold, probably won't hold at that rate, but at any rate, our enrollment is in a good direction, and we're pretty healthy as a college. Most of our students are younger. A lot of that has to do with our dual enrollment programs. I'll talk about that briefly in a minute. But one of the fastest areas of growth for us is actually in the 25 or older range. So now 28% of our students are in that 25 or older category, and 17% are in what I would call the more traditional kind of age, 20, 24. And then our gender breakdown is we've got over 50% of our students are female, 42% male. As we shifted some of our program mix into more of the trades, we're getting a little bit more male enrollment and trying to figure out too how to make sure we're supporting those male students, because they are being retained and succeeding at a lower rate than our female students. So moving along here, also our ethnicity, we had a really large category of unknown, which we're cleaning up. So making sure that we're measuring like who really is attending the college. So 37% of our students are Hispanic. For those of you who don't know, we're a Hispanic serving institution, which means that 25% of degree seeking students are Hispanic or identify as Hispanic. Honestly, we'll see if that designation even still matters in this world. I know that the Trump administration has downplayed those minority serving institutions, so we'll see what happens. But for us, we do take that seriously and want to make sure that our Hispanic students feel a sense of belonging and that they're going to succeed at the college. So we do our best to make sure that our students are succeeding and supported. All right, and then maybe if you're interested, our program mix, my slide to change here.
Kenny, I'll break in just for a second. I should have known this right at the start. If people have questions, would you prefer that they hold until the end of the presentation or take questions during the?
More than happy to just take questions as they come. So
okay, so
if anybody has any
I'm
questions,
keeping an eye on the screen, and if anybody has a question, please raise your hand.
and we should have plenty of time at the end too, but I'm more than happy. I think it's sometimes better to take them as we go.
Sure.
So our enrollment mix is primarily about 50% of our students are transfer students. So those would be Oregon transfer students plus general studies students. And then the rest of our enrollment is in the tech and trades. So you'll notice that aviation maintenance and our electromechanical technology program and advanced manufacturing, I'd say those are kind of the more heavy trades, make up about 16% of our enrollment. Those programs tend to have pretty small cohorts and they're space limited, but they're pretty full. And so those are probably about the max of what we're going to see in those. Our nursing program is very healthy, only has 3% of our total enrollment, but that's just because those cohorts are so small. A lot of those transfer students that are showing up are actually preparing and taking all of the coursework so that they can get into the nursing program. But we're pretty proud of that program, and we're actually fully staffed in that area for the first time in a while. It's hard to hire nurses.
Kenny, did you freeze?
What's that? Am I frozen?
Kenny,
Phil?
either you froze or I froze. And Phil has his hand up here.
Yeah.
Speaking of the nursing, what level of training is that? Is it a 2-year or 3-year program?
It's a 2-year program. So they can go and get there. They have to take, they have to take the exam to get their licensure. But they are RN nurses if they pass that exam. 2 years, associate's degree.
Am I correct? There is a higher level of accreditation, isn't there?
There's a separate accredit. So the college is accredited by the Northwest Commission, and then there's a separate accreditation that goes along with nursing. And then also, Phil, since you're asking, there's been a trend, really, I think, in nursing for nurses to have a bachelor's of science in nursing. And so actually community colleges have now started to offer a 4-year Bachelor of Applied Science in Nursing. There's a consortium. We're not a part of that currently, but kind of looking at that. I'll talk about those Bachelors of Applied Science in just a minute.
It's appreciated by hospitals because they the more training they have before they come in, the less lifting up the hospital and clinics have to do.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's like I said, something we're keeping our eye on if we want to go forward with like a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Any other questions? If not,
I'm sorry, I do have another question. The electromechanical has been a great program. There's a training site out in Gillum County. Are we associated with that?
We're definitely connected to that. And they are a great partner for us. But they, I think they had some very specific things that go beyond what our program was doing. So, but we definitely are a strong partner with them, and they, some of them serve on our advisory committee, and we have a good partnership with them.
One last question, then I'll let you go on. How many of the students are coming to the community college after having worked in having been employed but working elsewhere? Not just a summer job or a student job. So they're coming back for retraining, and how many are just continuing their education?
Yeah, great question. I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but I think there's a trend there, Phil, and that's when we're seeing the age of our students, that trend line where many of them are 25 or older. That's because they have been in the workforce and they're coming back, either to do something different or to upskill. So I think that's in the trend. I don't know specifically what that number would be, but I do think that is something we have our eye on too, is how we are serving those returning adult students. All right, so I'm going to kind of talk through a little bit of how we're realizing our mission. So I said equitable access, and again, what I mean by that is that there are pathways for everyone in the community to find a program that is of interest to them and that will lead to a living wage job. So really just highlighting some of the new program development here for a second. We have been exploring a new behavioral and mental health program. So we're looking at fall of 2027 to get that program off the ground. So all of these new program developments, by the way, they take money to get going, and I'm a little worried about kind of our state budget situation right now, but these are the high ones that are on our list. We also are still expecting to offer an ag tech program this coming fall, so fall of 2026, and we're looking to hire a faculty member in winter of this year to help sort of be able to deliver that program. We have a lot of the curriculum already developed, so it's just a question of recruiting the students, getting a faculty member in here to really launch it. We had funding for that program in the Early Learning Center Community Change Grant, which unfortunately we did not, that money never got released from the Trump administration. So we're still trying to sort out how we're going to move forward with that program, because it is well built out. There's a demonstrated need, and it just plugs so well into our local economy. So hoping that we can make that work. And then I mentioned the 4-year Bachelor of Applied Science degrees. We have actually a couple of these. The first one is a program that articulates with our advanced manufacturing program. We just recently got just shy of a $2 million grant from the Department of Ed, and we are adding an additive manufacturing portion to our advanced manufacturing, and that is in partnership with OSU, and they would take some of our students and just we would offer some of those classes here at CGCC. So I'd still call that in the exploring phase, but we have a really strong relationship now with OSU, and I'm really excited to see how that additive manufacturing now just adds yet another layer to our advanced manufacturing program. And then I'm also going to point out that we are moving forward with a soccer program. We've got a consultant right now that's helping us make sure our athletics programs as we just launched those, make sure that they're healthy. We unfortunately, we had launched a cross-country team last year, and our coach, who was supposed to get us going this year, had to bow out at the last minute. So we had to put our cross-country team on hold, but we are still pretty invested in that. My thinking behind athletics is that it just provides student athletes with an opportunity to stay close to home. Student athletes tend to complete actually and succeed because they've got that sense of purpose, and they have a strong community and a strong support system around them. So we're excited to see what that can bring. Also, just a little background too. All of the colleges I've worked at have had student housing, and they are full of student athletes. And our residence life and our residence hall is not entirely full. I don't know the exact number right now this year. I know we're doing better than we did last year, but there's still some space in there. So, and then we're also going to expand some programs. One of the areas that I mentioned in terms of why we have so many of our students that are young is because we have really strong dual enrollment programs. That is, students who are in high school but taking college level classes and getting college credit. So we are investing in those programs just because it's a great way for folks to get their higher ed credential and do it at a pretty low cost way, but one too that gets them quickly on a pathway and gets them into a job or a career. And so we've had some good partners with our local high schools and are continuing to grow that. We're part of a Bachelor of Applied Science program in education. So again, that's another area where we're looking at a 4-year degree. That does require that we change our accreditation status. So it's a little bit of a process that we have to go through for that. And then maybe following along that too, we've had pretty strong enrollment in our early childhood education program, and we know there's a large need there. So we're looking to hire a bilingual faculty in that program and continue the enrollment growth there.
Andy, we have a question from Kristen Dillon.
Hey, Dan, I had actually 2 questions just on these issues here. So the first one, I'm a family physician by training and have been the Medicaid director for the region here. I'm really curious to know what you're thinking in terms of the behavioral and mental health program at an associate's level. What kind of career licensing trajectory do you see that playing into?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we're, again, we need to like sketch this out when we're right in the middle of it, but there are quite a few 2-year degree options like in drug and addiction counseling. I want to make sure that whatever we offer will also provide a pathway for 4-year options and 4-year credentials. But there are a couple of options, and I'm blanking out on some of what those credentials are at the 2-year level in terms of what the formal name is. But we are really thinking in terms of that, like drug addiction counseling.
Okay, got it. Thanks. And then the other question I had on the dual credit program, I have a number of friends and acquaintances who are high school teachers. And there's a bit of a kerfluffle going about a substantial pay cut to the high school teachers who are instructing those courses, like on the order of 75% for a number of the teachers, with a redo of the fee schedule. And it, as I understand it, was rolled out to the teachers after they'd already agreed to teach the classes. What's your status of looking at the continuing to have the high schools come to CGCC for the dual credit courses? I know Dufer's left and is at Western Oregon now. What's your thinking there?
Oh, I hadn't heard that. What part of my thinking on the fee structure is that we needed to be consistent. We were kind of all over the place. We had very individualized partnerships with each of the local high schools that had just been negotiated over time. But there was no consistency to it. And so I had asked our vice president for student services to make sure that our programs are consistent with not just consistent for us in our own district, but consistent with how these programs tend to be run in a healthy way. It distresses me a little bit to hear that those faculty weren't informed, so I'll have to go back to her. But
I mean,
that's
you met with folks from Hood River, so I know, at least I know they met with folks at the college. So this isn't news, and my understanding is it was the same fee per student, no matter what high school they were at, but maybe I'm mistaken on that.
well, our relationship with Hood Rivers had been different from our relationship with the Dalles High School, for example. And so it's just like that was where we wanted to get some consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah,
would,
so there was like a 75% cut, in my understanding, to both schools. So
I'll have to
yeah,
follow up. Thanks for raising it, Kristen. I don't think there was to both schools, but I'll need to find out.
it's it's an issue to the it doesn't reflect what the teachers are getting doesn't reflect a college commitment to the dual credit programs and keeping those as an important part of the programs. So yeah, I think that's a really important thing to attend to.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up that issue. I'll look into it. And like I said, I know I believe it's a really important pathway. So we want to make sure that those are that program that it's quality, that it's consistent, and that it continues to grow, frankly. So thanks for raising it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kristen. Kenny, I don't see any other questions at this point.
All right, well, I'm going to move on into some of the work that we're doing to make sure students are successful in their programs. So a couple of things we're doing. We were selected as part of the Rural Guided Pathways Project, which is a fancy way of saying that we're trying to build real intentional pathways for students that are well structured, provides something of a cohort experience, and uses kind of some evidence-based practices to make sure students are successful. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of things that are coming out of that Rural Guided Pathways work. We are implementing or have implemented a first-year experience course, and that's a course that makes sure that when students are done, they have an academic plan. They know kind of their path and what courses they're going to need for the rest of their experience. It gives them some basic student navigational support. So that class was required, or we piloted it last year. It's required this year for all students, except for in our professional technical programs. They try and embed some of those outcomes. We are shortening our path in math and English. So instead of having to do 3 classes of pre-college math, and many of our students don't place immediately into college level math, we're trying to make sure they get enough support when they get into when they come to the college, so that they're immediately into a college level math or English class, but with sufficient lab support, and we'll put them in another course with some extra learning and faculty support so that they're successful in those programs. And that has been a trend across the country to really make sure that those pathways for math and English are shortened. That's one of the largest barriers for students, is actually completing their college level math. We're also shoring up our tutoring and mentoring programs. Again, with the idea that as long as you provide sufficient support for students and meet them where they're at, they're more than capable of actually completing and getting through some of those gateway classes like math and English. And then we've also been working on developing a pretty, well, I will say a more convenient 2-year schedule. Still have work to do. I think all colleges struggle with that a little bit when you're asking folks to like take time out of their days, and many of our students are working and got family obligations and everything else. But we're trying to be more intentional about how we're scheduling our classes. And then we are also making sure that students have the financial support they need. Our foundation has been pretty active and pretty successful in providing scholarships, and we also have some support through the state of Oregon, and we also use some of our Title III funding, which is a federal program to hire an equitable student funding navigator. So just helping students figure out how financial aid works what resources are actually out there so they can have the resources they need to be successful. That's another major barrier for students, is just coming up with the finances to fund their college. Our faculty also have been pretty busy with professional development, making sure that our practices in the classroom are welcoming and really geared towards making sure that all of our students are going to be successful, particularly since so many of our students are first-gen students and don't always have the same kind of family support and so on. So our faculty are doing all they can to make sure that our students are going to be successful. And then part of that too is building out kind of our sense of community and a sense of belonging at the college. And I will say we still have, we have work to do in all of those areas, but those are the things we're paying attention to and trying to invest in. And then since I think may have been the last, I can't remember for sure. I think I actually was here after we had passed the bond, but I know I'd come to community affairs and pitched the bond. Well, happy to say that we got it passed. So we just hired a few months ago a project management firm who's doing a great job helping us manage some of those projects. And as it turns out, as we've scoped everything, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get through all of our project lists, just because I'm not sure we're going to have enough money to go through all of it. But we are starting to make some pretty strong headway. So just a couple of, a lot of our projects are around safety and security. So repairing elevators so folks don't get caught in elevators. We're upgrading all of our security and access panels at the college. And then we are upgrading some of our classroom spaces too, including improving a science, actually refitting a science lab in the Hood River campus that was, I'm told anyway, was originally plumbed and everything for a second science lab, and they never followed through with it. So we'll try and get that done. Here are a couple of other projects. So not all of these are bond funded, but we're also making sure that our student spaces are welcoming. So we want to get a student engagement center and a fitness center that'll go along with the athletics program. And maybe a couple quick other ones just to highlight. As I mentioned, with that almost $2 million grant, we are adding some new lab equipment, plus refitting some of the classrooms up at the skills center to accommodate that lab. And then Jacob, we are looking forward to an aviation maintenance technology program over at the airport. So excited to see those hangars starting to go up. And that kind of does it for facilities. And then maybe just as a way of closing, we do see our role as an important sort of public resource, and we are interested in partnering and making sure all of our programs are successful and contributing to our community. We are being pretty deliberate about making sure our programs align with regional economic development strategies. So that's where the ag tech program or the mental health programs come in, and partnering with any of our local organizations to make sure that we are contributing to the community. So I won't read sort of the rest of those bullet points to you, but it's all in that flavor of really trying to make sure that the college is helping to promote a thriving community in our district. Phil.
Fascinating. Phil, go ahead.
Just starting on this note, several here. I think Scott McKay could go back. I can recall when the building was a what we now call mental health facility, and then before that it was, I believe, a sanitarium for tuberculosis. So this has been wonderful to have, this part of the community now come to serve the community in a educational, holistic way. My question going to go back to facilities. I understand you mentioned that the residence hall is full. Is there? There was, I remember, thought of building even more, but how is that facility, the residence hall? Has it become affordable for students? Is it? How do they like it? And are we thinking of expanding?
we're not thinking of expanding yet, because it's not actually full right now, Phil. We definitely have more students this year than we did last year, but last year was just a little over half full. I am expecting that we haven't fully resourced that facility the way it needs to be in terms of just marketing, making sure everybody knows that it's available. So we did make some changes there so that I do think the word will get out, and like maybe that's why we're up this year. And I think once we get those athletics programs going as well, we're going to see that full. And once we start meeting demand, if there needs to be more, then maybe we'll start looking, but not until then.
We have a question from Roger.
Thank you. I had the same question as Phil did about what's the cost for renting one of the housing units at the college. And the other thing is, I apologize, I'm going to have to leave momentarily. I have a dental appointment at 8 o'clock, but I will encourage you to check out the shameless publicity I put in the chat box about what I put up for the auction coming up. So thank you.
Thanks, Roger. I'm going to say it's about $800 a month. Tom, do you know off the top of your head how much rent is?
$715 a month, and that includes 5 meals, campus cafe, and free Wi-Fi, free utilities, laundry on site. And for that, you're sharing a room in a 2-bedroom quad. So there's 2 bedrooms. Each room has 2 beds, bunk beds, and then you share a living room, and then a bathroom, and then down the hall there's a full kitchen and a big living room and a study room, and let's see what else. The laundry's down the hall. It's a very cool, modern facility.
Tom, do you have a point of contact if people are interested in learning more about that?
Tiffany Prince,
Would you
Director
like to
of
put
Student
that in
Life.
I thought
I
it
sure
might be
will.
Tiffany. Would you like to
Yep.
put her email address and context in the
Yep.
chat box? Let's take advantage of a little marketing opportunity right here.
Thanks, Dan.
Great. We have a question from Jacob.
If it's only 50% full, have you guys looked at opening it up to recent graduates from the programs that may be looking to work in, things here locally and not have to, find market rate housing at this time?
Yeah, that's a good point. We probably need to do a little bit more of that. Right now, as the rules stand, they do need to be a student. Yeah, that's a good idea, Jacob.
I have a question on the Hood River campus. First off, you're correct. The old science lab was plumbed for that, but never used as such. One of the bullet points was increasing community use of the Hood River building. Could you give some examples on that one? I know there's always been a shortage of meeting space in Hood River.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we're going with that, Dan. So we've already made just a small improvement, but for those of you that have been in that building, you walk in and it's a little off-putting almost, because you're just confronted with kind of an empty desk as you walk in, and it's not very open. So really just trying to make it a little bit more open. We're still batting around ideas about how we could make that more community friendly, including the possibility of even adding commercial kitchen. I think that's a little bit more of an aspiration that might not be really within our reach, but there is a large need for a commercial kitchen space, which we do provide currently up right now at the Dallas campus, and we are going to upgrade some of that facility. But a lot of our clients even there are actually in Hood River. So anyway, we've had some conversation about how that might be possible. We're going to need some design help, I think, to really try and make those kinds of improvements where folks are going to want to come in. But we're certainly open to that, and we want to see the community using that building. It's a great space. So.
All right.
But since we're talking about construction, do you have a rough idea of what's the cost per square foot of college campus stuff? And if not, do you know somebody I might ask?
You could ask David or Chris McKay from HMK, who they are our project managers.
Okay.
I don't have that number right. I mean, I guess I could calculate it, but
Yep, that's fine.
okay, yeah.
Kenny, I'm really impressed with the program development, and frankly, 20% increase. That's I remember when 10% was remarkable.
Well, I'm not promising that's going to hold, but I'm hoping actually it'd be great if we landed at 10% overall by the time all is said and done.
And a question from Leslie.
It's more of a comment, actually. I just wanted to say that we're really excited at MCAC. We have a new partnership with the College Trades Program, and it's going to be kicking off this fall. They're going to be building tiny homes for us that will eventually replace the pallet shelters at the Gloria Center. So those pallet shelters have been absolutely wonderful, but they have a really finite lifespan, and they are nearing the end of their lifespan. And so we're really excited to replace those with a much more dignified space.
Yeah, no, we're excited about that as well. So.
This
And
is
Phil?
Phil again, and this is going to end up positive, but I don't want to throw water on a 20% increase. But my experience with community colleges here and elsewhere is they're counter-cyclical with the economy. As economy slows down, people said, okay, I'm going to go back to school and work. The good side of that is we have a place for people to go back to school and work, so they still have a sense, okay, I am moving forward in my life.
Yeah, you are correct.
So, Kenny, and actually we've been joined by a couple of other folks, Corliss Marsh, and I believe that Brian Tuck was on board a little bit earlier. I don't see Brian on the screen right now. But a question I would have, and of course it's a big one, what the Trump administration basically wore on DEI and cuts across education, uncertainty in the Department of Education itself, which is Title III. How are you navigating? Are we doing okay? What's coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say I'm a little anxious about it, Dan, because that kind of goes back to like where we started, which is the mission of a community college. And we're here to make sure that everyone in our community has a pathway to a good living wage job and can improve their life circumstance through education. And for us to do that and do that well, it does require that we focus on who those students are and requires that we have a commitment to being equitable and being inclusive in our learning environments and at our college. So we have to still be committed to those things. In the end, like the laws, the civil rights laws have not changed. The president has decided to arbitrarily sort of determine that DEI stuff is wrong and unlawful is some of the words that he's used. And furthermore, that it's divisive, which if you come up to the college, that's not how we practice DEI. We're here to make sure everybody feels welcome and that they belong, and we treat everybody as an individual with integrity and with dignity, and try to make sure they're all supported and that they're successful in their studies. And we're going to continue to do that unless the law changes. So we are consulting, of course, with legal, and all the colleges are a little nervous because when you have a threat of withholding federal funding, and many of our students rely on that federal funding, it puts us in a pretty tough spot. So right now we are convinced we are following the law, and we're sticking with our mission.
Thank you. Thank you for doing so.
We have cars in the parking lot with Trump flags, and we have cars in the parking lot with rainbow flags. And a lot of times those kids are in the same classes and they do just fine.
Good. I would almost draw a corollary with the U.S. military in World War II, where you had folks from all walks of life thrown together in the trenches, and I think it gave us an era of stability until fairly recently. Other questions around the table? Kenny, this is a really fascinating. Thank you for all the work you put into that presentation.
Yeah.
These updates. I'll ask a question since Jake is on the line, and I know it's an issue of common interest on the aviation maintenance training hangar. Jake, what is the status? Not to put you on the spot, but I know you're tracking that one.
I talked with Jeff. We are expected to have the final plans and have a meeting in the next 2 weeks on finalizing everything, and then hopefully going out for bid shortly thereafter.
Fantastic. Kenny, you had mentioned the cross country. The coach that you had in mind had stepped aside. I'll circle back with you on that one. I might know of somebody, unless it's the same individual, it could be. And around the table, if people think about your networks, people who might be interested in cross country.
Yeah, we're pretty. I'm feeling good that we'll get that person. It just the timing was really horrible, man, because now we almost have to miss the season because there's a point where you have the eligibility for we're part of the Northwest Athletic Commission, so or conference, and so I think we're gonna miss that opportunity for this year and just have to be okay with that. But I'm very confident we will recruit another cross country coach. Running is pretty big in our area, and we already have a little interest. But yeah, I mean, if anybody has folks either in the soccer world or in the running world that you would suggest as coaches, by all means, shoot me an email. I'd be eager to get in touch with them.
Sounds good. All righty. Folks, other questions around the table for Dr. Lawson, Columbia Gorge Community College? If not, we have 5 minutes remaining. I think none of us has a problem with gaining another 5 minutes in the day. So with that, Dr. Lawson, on behalf of the chamber, we really appreciate your time. Appreciate the time everyone puts into this, and very good, thought-provoking questions, good information shared. With that, Leslie, I believe you're on board for next week, Leslie Naramore. So we'll look forward to that next Thursday at 7 a.m. and we'll be sending out a reminder. All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week and have a good weekend. Good luck with all that you do. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dr. Lawson. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Take care.